This week's Hello Drunk World. Fuck, I've had a few drinks already, so we'll see how it goes. The inaugural opening of a bottle of wine. A little bit of ASMAR. I think I said that right. I never can say that right. A little bit of wine pouring on the go. So this week I'm going to be trying, in inverted commas, to create a typewriter style component using React.js. So let's see if I can get this right. Yeah, so this is the inspiration that I'm working off. I just want to double check everything's right. Yeah, this is the inspiration that I'm working off. So this really cool library called Windups. As you can kind of see, it's like, I call it like a typewriter style effect where, like, you know, words come in like letter by letter and spaces, and now this is way above where I'm going to be going with this. But I think we can hack something together to make something kind of like this. Learn a little bit, hopefully, about React. Learn a little bit about CSS animations that I assume we're going to need for this, because you might hear in the background of sirens. Learn a little bit about this, like CSS animations, but like I know nothing about CSS animations. Oh, I can see it. So I have an Amazon package coming today as well, and I can see the driver just pulled up, so I might have to disappear just for a second while he comes to the house. And I bet you that is him. Is it? No, maybe not. Yep, it is. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Are you okay, mate? Cheers. Thank you. All the best,
There you go. Super professional. Amazon deliveries. We're all at home. We order too many things off Amazon. Fuck it. Okay, so I want to try and create a package like this. Kind of prints out. I think we're going to try and get somewhere towards that. So before I kick off, actually, shout out to my wife and designer, Louise Loughlin of Liffey Designs, who had done the title art you might have seen and this cool t-shirt, if you can see it on the screen. So I've got my own logo and t-shirt, and obviously we have a pup. So I have this app. I'm going to unpin this, bring it a little before. So I have this very basic kind of skeleton to start off with. As you can see, it doesn't do anything. If I do test and then button, which is aptly named, doesn't do anything either. So what I want to be able to do is, if I type into there, click the button, I'm going to rename that to Go probably, or Type or something like that. I want that then to do the typewriter effect and replace this text. So let's give this a go and we'll see how we get on with it. So we're working off a Create React app, which is already running. And this is our main code. So we have our typewriter. The only things I've added into this is I've added Chakra UI. So you can see we have the theme provider for Chakra UI. We have an app component. So if we go into our app component, I'm going to have to lose my widths on this, which is going to be a pain, but I think we can go that far. Yeah, that's not too bad. So we have an app component that uses the button input and the flex components from Chakra UI. Chakra UI, very better copy and paste this because I'm never going to remember it. I'm never going to be able to type it. Chakra UI is a really, really handy, like, kind of, you could call it Bootstrap for React, even though there is a React Bootstrap, but it's built with React in mind first, and it has like emotion for styles, so it does like style component-ish kind of implementation. So you don't have like a CSS file and then your components on top of it with a bunch of class names. It can do a lot of interesting cool shit. So you can pass it like that's going to be margin top is 2 and that kind of stuff, like a line center. So you can, like, the font's extra large. You can give it like declarative props to explain like how things should be done. Make sure everything's all right. It's very useful for getting like a UI up and going really quickly, hence why I'm using it. So the crux of our app is we have a flex box that's holding our text will print here. We have the input that you've seen and our button. First things first. Are we gonna call this go or we call it type? We'll call it go because we're like go, print that text. Does nothing. This, when you type in here, we're just using a React hook to handle the input text. So as you type it, updates the input text, which then updates the input itself. So if we go back here, we'll see this is now go. Annoyingly off, so the button's not the same height as the input. That's minor. I'm not going to fix that. So I've been trying to think how we handle this. If I flick back to here, so I'm trying to think how we handle this. I kind of want the case of like you type in what you want on the typewriter, then you hit go. Then that replaces that, and each letter comes in letter by letter. We're going to maybe skew, well, I say skew as in like, you know, rotate the letters slightly each way, and also scale them up and down a little bit, kind of like, you know, if it was a wonky typewriter that, you know, didn't look right. So I think that's going to be the core crux of the application. So in that case, I think where we're going to start with is we need to have a component. Well, first we need to be able to then replace this text with whatever we typed. So we can duplicate this line, and then we can call this display text, and then set display text, and that's going to be empty by default. So now this is going to be our display text. Just keeping an eye on the chat there in case anything comes up. Sometimes the stream manager for Twitch can be really weird and sometimes lags out, so if you ever see me jumping in here, it's to make sure everything's going okay and nothing's popped up. So we got display text and we got to set display text. So now in here we can say set display text, and we want this then to be our input text. So whatever the input text is now going to become the display text. So we can, that'll auto save. We go back. So now we don't have our text here. And I can say hello. Dyslexic of me. I don't know why. I type hello and I put the W on the end instead of taking the space in the W. But even then, I'm doing hello drunk world. So yeah, I can say test go. Okay, yeah, like that's fine. There's nothing complicated there. But again, I wanted to like I wanted to print letter by letter. So let's create like a letter component that will allow us to print letter by letter at a time. So if we come in here and we say we want to create it, and I have a couple of presets in WebStorm that I think are really useful, where I can like create like a functional component. So I can say letter and letter. And what I like about this is like it pre-fills out the component for me, so it creates like an empty component with prop types. Fuck, I don't care about prop types. This is Hello Drunk World. This isn't Hello Professional World. So we're going to create a letter component, and this is going to take a child. So it's going to take children, and the children is going to be the individual letter that we care about. So we open up our div to accept the children. Now if we go back here, we could say, well, I wanted to print out each letter as I wanted to do every letter from our display text as a letter component. So we can do that if we expand this out. So I can do split. We'll split on an empty string. We'll split on every character, including spaces, tabs, all that kind of stuff. So if I call split on that, so actually, for example, don't break. If my trackpad's playing up. If I zoom in here too, so if I do test dot split see, it creates an array for me with every letter that goes in the word. Same goes for hello drunk world. So it gives us an array of all the letters. My fucking trackpad is going to play up the entire way through the stream, but fuck it, we're going to go with it. So yeah, we know how to split the string. So we can say, right, we want to split the string, and then I want to map over it. Because it's an array, I'm going to map over it, and we want to, instead of returning the array of strings, we want to return an array of components. So that's why we're using a map in this case. So let's say car for character and index, which we'll see in a minute. Fuck it, I'm gonna have to full screen this shit. Index, and then we're going to create a new arrow function, and then here's where we're going to return our letter component. So we can say return letter. I'm going to do letter, because we're passing in the child as each letter, so we're going to say car. So our character is letter. Because we're mapping over in React, you need to pass in a key prop, so React can handle the re-rendering of your array each time. It's not recommended to use the index, because if you're adding or removing from that array, indexes, like if you know an index of 1, 2, 3, and then you removed let's say like the second item, you would then have the index, it's something like that, like 1, 3, but because you're iterating over the array again, the index is going to be 1, 2, so React doesn't know whether or not to properly re-render that middle item in your array. You're best using unique characters. We don't have a unique character in this. We could have used car, like our character value, but like, you know, words like people that have 2 P's back to back wouldn't really work too well. So we're going to use index as our key. I don't recommend it, but in this case, we're not manipulating the array after the fact. I can fucking type. We're not manipulating the array after the fact, so I think it's fine here. So if we do index, turn into letter into characters, technically nothing should change. So test. I'm not typing a hello drunk world every time. Yeah, nothing changed. But if we inspect this, we can see we have a bunch of divs, each holding one of the letters. So we want to programmatically render these out. Now, the solution I have in my head probably isn't the best solution. I think you can actually do this just with pure CSS. But I think this is a fun way to play about with JavaScript and React. So we'll see how this goes. And like, fire away in the comments if there's something you're like, what the fuck is going on here, or you should be doing this, or you've missed a comma there, that's why it's not working, because that will happen. So we have our letter components. I can do blah 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 blah, print it out, and we can see all of our, or all separate divs including spaces. So we can style this. So my go-to for styling is style components. So let's pull in import styled from on web store and give me autocomplete. Yeah, so pull in style components with style components. So we want to create like a style component for our, oh no, wrong file. We want to create a style component for our letter. So not in here, we want to go into our letter component. Do that there. So I'm going to say const styled letter equals styled, and it's going to be a div because everything's a div. Fuck semantic HTML. Who supports screen readers, or that's a terrible thing. I really should care more about that. I never properly learned HTML. I just picked up crap that I seen online. If you're watching this, you're doing the same. So we want to do a few things. Like, I think typewriter wise, like, they kind of spaced out a bit, so we're going to add a bit of margin So I'm going to say margin, and I only want it left and right. I could do margin left and then the value, margin right and the value, but I'm trying to improve my CSS and get better, like, you know, bringing things all online. So we're going to say 0 for the top, 5 for right, 0 for bottom, 5 for left. Then I want to bump up the font size as well, because I want to play with the actual size of it. So I'm going to say font size 100 pixels. So we're not actually using this yet, so then we need to use this in our component here. So let's see what changes. Nothing should change. Test. Okay, text is bigger. We haven't actually animated or done anything else with this yet. So what do we need to do next? I'm trying to think. So do we tackle the asynchronous? We'll do the asynchronous, like timed printing of each of the letters. So as you can see at the minute in our app, whenever I click this button, it just sets the text, and it sets the text to be the full display text. So I want to say only set each character at a time. We can kind of then take precedence here. See, you know, can we like populate? Yeah, can we populate this display text? My trackpad would work. Can we populate this display text with a character at a time? And because we're updating a bit of React state, hey Billy, how's it going? Thanks for joining the stream. CSS running. I'm going to admit I am terrible at CSS. I'm trying to learn. Like I see yourself doing the 100 days of code. Firefox. I code every day anyway for work, and I try and do personal stuff. But yeah, like trying to learn CSS, like I always discounted CSS and HTML because I was a JavaScript developer, and it's not bit me in the ass, but it's prevalent whenever I try and like do anything. I once got called out in work because I was trying to do something. When you hovered a table row, it would show an icon on a certain cell. I managed to write a bunch of JavaScript event handlers to handle when you'd enter the row and exit the row, and then target the element in the cell and turn it to display none or display block. And then a guy in the team was like, you could just set the the CSS property to do on hover, and I was like, well, there goes my fucking experience. 10 years in the industry, and a guy with fucking 2 schooled me on a bit of CSS. It's a really useful thing to learn. Definitely, like, if you can learn it at an early stage, learn it. So, as I say, we want to programmatically put letters into our display text, so then it'll tap type out. So that's all going to be done here in our on click. So I know in my head how I want to do this. I'm going to do it wrong first, and then we're going to figure out why it's wrong. And the funny thing is, like, this is like a 101 like JavaScript interview question I ask people all the time, and I did this like a while recently, and I wondered like what the fuck is wrong with this. So like you kind of think, right, okay, I want to do it at a delayed. I want to say like T, wait like a couple of seconds, E, wait a couple of seconds, S, wait a couple of seconds, T, wait a couple of seconds, and then there's nothing left anyway. So what we could technically say is display text dot, well, it actually would be input text dot split dot for each. So we want to look over this array of our input text, which has been filled out above, and then we're going to say car for our character. I don't know if that's a JavaScript thing anymore. Car, it could be anything. Item, whatever. Actually, I'm going to call it item. No, car. Call car. And so for each character, we're then going to say set timeout. I'm going to give it a function, and I'm going to give it a delay of say 50 milliseconds. This is where my master shit. Milliseconds to seconds. So half a second. So for every half a second, we're going to say set display text. And then with the beauty of React hooks, you can say, give me the current value and then append the next value. So I could say current and return a templated string of current and then our character. So technically, reading that code, I know it's wrong already, but I'm doing the wrong way to explain the point. What's going to happen is we're going to set a timeout for half a second, set a character, set another timeout for half a second, set a character, set another timeout for half a second, set a character, and so on. Right, we save this. We're not going to get what we're going to expect, but it's interesting to see why. So if I do test, then I go waited. There was the wait, and it all appeared at one time. If you're on the chat and you know why, fire in. But we'll explain why anyway. It's a really interesting one I use all the time in interview questions, and the worst part is like this caught me out the other day when I was trying to like prepare for this, and I was like, why is this not working? And I was like, oh, I know why it doesn't work. Well, I know that it doesn't work, but I don't know why, and I don't know what the solution is. And I actually had to go back and look because I'm so wrapped up into React components and lifecycle methods and fucking Ajax that I'm not playing about with set timeouts anymore. I'm not playing about with the core asynchronicity of JavaScript, which really fucks me over all the time. So what's actually happening here is the for each is going to run, and it's going to say create a timeout, create a timeout, create a timeout, create a timeout. It's going to create how many, like say 4 timeouts for test, but it's going to create them all at the exact same time, and the set timeout is from now and then till 5 or 0.5 or 500 milliseconds. Execute this, but because they all started at the exact same time, they're all going to complete the exact same time. So there is a dirty way to get around this, and it would be something like if we had an index, we could say that times index plus 100, I think, because 0 plus 100 is 100, and then that would actually delay it for us because it's creating timeouts with different delays. That actually worked quite well. That's not the best because all you're doing, like you're still adding. There's a great talk, Jake Archibald, event loop JS. I'm just fat finger typing until Google will give me the right answer. There's a good talk from Jake Archibald on the event loop in JavaScript and how the event loop works and how you put items on the queue. Okay, why is this dirty? It feels like you're trying to get around the fact that all those set timeouts are going to be called immediately. Like you think with set timeout gets called, like the timeout itself gets called immediately, but the function in the delay part of it only gets called when the time ends. So what you're saying is you're going to line up a bunch of events, and they're all going to they're all going to happen. I hope you can see in the camera. They're all going to happen a little bit apart. But you're relying on the fact that they're all going to complete a little bit apart. And the JavaScript event loop has like multiple different levels of how it prioritizes events. So promises, there's like system events, and there's different type of events that all take precedence and all take priority. And because JavaScript is a single thread, you're putting stuff on that stack, and you can't guarantee exactly when they're going to execute, and when they're all going to happen. Like for this example, there's nothing else running on this stack. But what if I had another component up here that was also fire and timeouts and promise events? Potentially we could get out of sync where, the S would get passed in before the T or something like that. Like you can't always guarantee. And I always think like the difference between set timeout and what we're going to use is set interval. Set interval is more of the case of after a certain period of time, do this. Then after a certain time, do this. instead of set timeout is after a certain set of time do this. Whereas like if you build up a set interval and you use the same interval, the interval will wait until it completes its first task and then run again. It completes that, run again, completes that, run again, and that kind of pattern where it's a rolling loop instead of creating a bunch of events that are going to complete, and you can't always guarantee the order or the execution of those events. Set time, and like I was always told, is hacky. Like it's a really useful tool, but not when you're trying to balance out a bunch of things that actually rely on each other. And in this case, we want an order of text. I hope that actually explains something. So we can go back and we can actually refactor this a little bit. The code itself is going to look a bit more like in depth and different, but I think we can achieve the same. So we're first going to create up some variables. So we're going to say we're going to create a const, and it's going to be our, say, letters, and this is going to be our input text. So it's going to be just a split of our input text. So we've created an array of our letters. So now we have something that we can iterate over. Now this code, I was playing about with it recently and it's a bit old, so I might like kind of try and clean it up as we go, because it uses some old paradigms of like for loops and that kind of stuff, but we'll see how it goes, I guess. So I'm going to do it the way that I played about with this before in the past, and then maybe we can try and see if we can refactor it. So we're going to create like an iterator variable, so the good old var I equals 0. And then we want to create, it's going to be a little let as well because then we're going to destroy it. So we're going to create our interval. We're going to create an interval variable, which is going to hold our set interval. Set interval. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to create that. And I think we give it our 0.5 seconds or 500 milliseconds again. So in here, this is what's going to happen. So each time, oh fuck, fat finger typing. Yeah, so what we're doing is we're setting up an interval. Every half a second, it's going to trigger this interval. And what I like about this is because it's doing it in like a phased approach, it's going to be half a second, do something, half a second, do something, half a second, do something. Or half a second, and then whenever the call stack's free, do something, because of the fact that it is a single thread and there's other things to call stack, that doesn't affect us right now. So in here we need to then say set display text, and we only want to add in the current item we have, so we can copy pasta some of the bits below. Now it's going to be a little bit different from here, so what we're going to say is letters, and then get the index and letters of where we are, which I think is okay. So, but the thing is, this will continuously keep running and infinitely unless we try and stop it. So we then need to clear our interval at some point. So we can say if if our interval plus, so like adding one on the interval, because each time we run around, and this is kind of shorthand, but it's hard to read. What we're doing is we're incrementing our interval, as well as then we're comparing that incremented value against our like the end of our array. So letters dot length, and we're gonna say like letters dot length -1 because our indexes start at 0. And then if that's the case, we want to say clear interval, and because we have our interval variable declared above, we can clear that out. I think that works. So we get rid of what we had before. We probably could do it somehow with a for each to say if we're at the end of the variable. I'm going to comment that out, not get rid of it yet, because we might play about with that later. So if we flick back now, we could say test TES. So we've got them going. So we got our hello drunk world. If I can type and see. We should probably clear out the previous value whenever we do that. Although it's still cool, it's printed out like a typewriter. So let's do set display text to be empty first. So test, and then hello. I keep on typing the W at the end of hello. I don't know why the fuck I keep doing that. Drunk world. Yeah, so it clears it out and then starts typing out, and like I call it a typewriter fashion. So that is kind of cool. We've got some more of that, but I kind of want to play with this like a little bit more. One thing is, like, we were handling spaces the same as we were handling characters. I think we can do something with that. So we'll leave this because I'm already at 45 minutes. I want to do some logic here because, right, so we're iterating through this. I want to put this like, I want to do the printable letter for a space, and then I want to just return. So if car equals a empty space, I'm just going to return a normal span. So return span car. I want to see whether that makes a difference. So test with spaces in between. This is the slowest it comes in version. Didn't actually. Should have actually put the space in the middle, but I don't know why I didn't do that. Maybe we'll leave that for now. So that's fine, but I think we can go a little bit further on this, and this is where I want to get into more CSS and a little bit of like animation work. I want to like change the transform of the letter as they go out. I want to get somewhere close to what we were looking at when we had windups. You know, we refresh windups like that kind of pop it out. You know, we're never going to get anywhere near that, but we might get something close to that. So we already have this as a style component, and I'm trying to think like, you know, we can use CSS keyframes to do animations on our components. So CSS, or what am I doing right? Style components does have the ability to handle keyframes, thankfully, through its own keyframes utility. So then I can create myself a keyframe. So I say const, and I don't know, we'll call this type, because it's typewriter animation kind of keyframey kind of thing. So that's going to equal keyframes. Keyframes takes a template string, and like from anytime I've used this, like I like the fact like with CSS animations you can do a from and then a to. So it's like where it started when it was rendered and to where it finished when it was rendered. So this kind of cleans up. So we can say from, and we want to do a transform. Now, there's a couple of transforms I want to do. I'm thinking about scaling the letter up and down depending on where it is. So maybe one letter be a little bit bigger, one a little bit smaller, and I also want to do like rotation left and right. So we'll start off with like just doing scale. So if I scale, and then let's say they're all going to be 1.5, I think. Is it 1.5? Yeah. Oh no, so it's going to start. Sorry, because it's an animation. It's going to start at 0.5, and we're going to go 2 and copy the transition. It's going to go to 1.5. And then we need to be able to use that in our style component. So we can call animation, and then I want to give it a time. So it's going to be 2 seconds of actual like animation time, and then we can pass in our actual keyframe. So I think it's type. I think that's all we need. So let's go back to our app and do test. There you go. So we can see it's animating in, getting bigger and smaller. But it went back to its original size. I wanted to maintain the from size. So we can say forwards, and that tells the CSS animation to go forwards but don't go back to original state. Or don't change back. So test if I can type. So it's growing them big. It feels like we've lost our padding on these. They're very tight together. Because we're doing the transform, there really should be a bit more padding. Let's see if we bump this to 10. Oop. Fuck, we could probably take that up to 20. I have a wide typewriter. I'm trying to save the file. So we do that. Dun dun dun. Okay, so we've got it, but I want to dynamically set the scale for these. The same goes for, like, I want to do the same with rotation as well. But I think if we get dynamic scale, then we can replicate that and use that for dynamic. Like rotation is the CSS analogy. So let's see how we can do this with static components. Again, if you've not used static components, you can see I've been searching things before. Static components, really cool library. I think it's only for React. I don't know if you can use it in Vue or vanilla JavaScript, but it allows you to write your CSS in JS. And no, you're not writing CSS in JS. You're writing CSS in a JavaScript file, but also like interact with it using props and stuff. So like, is this an interactive example? I don't know. But like, look at all the people who use it. It must be amazing. Spotify uses it? Oh, cool. Very, very useful for like being able to write JavaScript, but also adding style into it and not having to worry about having a CSS file or Sass or less or something like that. I use it for everything. It works out perfect. So I think in this case, so I've played about this before. Like, you can create like dynamic keyframes. So I can like turn this into a function. So I can say scale. Well, because I want two scales. I want a from scale and a to scale. So I can turn this into an actual. It technically is a higher order component that returns a template interpolated string, if that makes sense. So it's going to be from scale to scale. Turn that into an arrow function. So then these values are then populated as a template string. So from scale in there. And in here it's going to be to scale. So we're dynamically populating our keyframe. The reason why we're dynamically populating the keyframe is if we had done, if we simply just done like math.random for our scale, we just did a math.random here. This is created at like runtime. But it created whenever you import that component. It's not created every time that component gets rendered. So the same scale we've applied to every letter, which is not what we want. I want to like vary the scales in between each of the letters. So we need to create a dynamic function that takes the values in instead of a function that is like a template that is computed at runtime once, which is more performant. This is probably not the most recommended way to do something, but it's more performant to do the first way. This is probably unperformant because you're recalculating CSS every time, which is then triggering an injection into the styles tag every time. And again, in the chat, if you're watching YouTube, it doesn't matter, but any questions, shout out, call me out, whatever the fuck's going on. So we can we can create this and we can turn this into a function that takes a from scale and to scale, which then we need to then pass that into this component. And because does it get passed in? No. Before we do that, so this now becomes an actual function call, but we have to access properties from the style component. So we can say props, and we're going to say, so type now is a function instead of just a template, a string, and it's going to take from, well, it's going to take a from scale and to scale, which we don't have yet. So it's going to be props dot from scale. Oh, that's wrong, isn't it? So wrong, so wrong. So we take a from scale, and then we also need to do props dot to scale. And kind of what I like about style components especially is the fact that like I'm writing CSS here, but I haven't left the one file. I'm not having to go off, change context, change understands. I'm writing JavaScript inside of my CSS as well, so I can programmatically generate styles without having to worry about, you know, some sort of templating language like Sass or like Less that would generate styles for you. Bill, too hot in Spain. Here, you'd be surprised. It's 22.5 degrees in Belfast at the minute, which is record. It's fucking hot and humid and driving me up the fucking walls. Right, so we now need to pass props in here. So we're going to have from scale and to scale. It's going to be easier to copy and paste this stuff. I can't type. I'm fucking nitty. I've like nearly a bottle of wine in me. We'll do 1 for now, just to test it all works. So if we pass in the same for that, and pass in 1, what will change? What will change? Nothing, hopefully. Nothing will change. Test. Yeah, so it's all scaled to 1, which is standard, I think. So it should be okay. It's just making me think, we were talking there about the heat. Like, I'm probably the only person who does this, but I put red wine in the fridge because fuck me, like if it's warm, I can't drink warm drink, and 2, I buy cheap red wine, so I have to chill it, so I can't actually taste the red wine. I taste the alcohol and the drunk that it's going to provide me with. But yeah, does anyone else chill their red wine? I remember reading there was I think it was like a fucking BuzzFeed or Vice article that said, like, you know, you should chill certain red wines, but chill to like above room temperature, not necessarily chill to like the temperature of milk would be in the fridge. But yeah, okay, so back to where we were. So we've got our scales. They're both all the same right now. Red wine's so cheap in Spain. Fuck yeah, man. Like, you know, I every time I talk to you on Twitter, and I'm talking to Bill here on the Twitch channel, anytime I talk to you on Twitter, I can't help be like, fuck you. Yeah, I know you fucking live in Spain, and it's warm and sunny, and fucking everything's amazing. Fuck you. Yes, I live in rainy Belfast. You got out, you did well. Fair play to you. I hope you're drinking like some sangria concoction or something at the moment. Probably, fuck yeah, I need to make some sangria. But I would tend to do the sangria cervezas, where sangria and beer mixed in together, which I really kind of like because they give a little bit of fizz and a bit of refreshment from the beer, and you can chill it down even more. But right, we got our from scale and our to scale, but I want to randomize these. I'm shit in randomized numbers, so this is going to be something that I've prepared earlier. I'll take it. So we're going to use the math.random function. So we go math.random. You missed the fit at home. hey, you can't beat. This would be one thing for Bill. Can't beat a taco chip. Now I couldn't eat a taco chip anywhere else in the world, but a taco chip from Belfast or Derry or wherever you're from, like you can't beat that shit. Don't worry, keeping things going. Right, so we're gonna do math at random. This is something I'm copying and pasting from somewhere else because I am shit when it comes to randomizing numbers. But I'm gonna do math at random, and you can do times, and we give it our min and our max. So our min for our scale is gonna be 0.5 minus, and then our max is gonna be 1.0. And for some reason we plus it with our min, which is 0.5. And then for some reason we do dot to fixed. To fixed 4. And the reason we do this is it gives us our decimal places. I think I need to wrap this in another bracket there. Yeah, that worked. So that's our lower random. So that's going to be our lower scale random, and then we need to do the same for our upper scale random. And it's just a case of changing the values. So like our min and our max are going to change. So now like the smallest scale that we're going to go to is going to be 1.5, and our upper scale is going to be 2.5, we'll say. So then again, that's a comma, it's not a decimal place. Going to do 1.5. So I think we save now. Is this going to work? I hope it's going to work. Fuck, the drunk's kicking in. Oh, I almost typed in something else. It doesn't one by, yes, it does it 1 by 1. So the reason, like you've seen, they were all doing it in conjunction. Every time they're running, we're iterating through this array, and React is re-rendering each of these components again, which is annoying. But React luckily has a memoization function, so we can do React memo and pass our component into React memo. And what that means is, if the props don't change, React won't re-render. So you don't get unnecessary re-renders, which is good for performance. In this case, it stops it from running the animation twice. So if we do this again, you can say scaling up, and they're all a little bit of a different size. So we're looking well. We're looking well. Then the other thing I want to do is I want to do rotation. So we've got scale, let's do rotation. So we're going to do rotate, and again, we want to programmatically set our rotate. So we're going to pass in new parameters here. So we're going to do from rotate and change this to rotate. So now this is going to be from rotate. And then we'll just copy past this, make it quicker. So we're getting close to it. Well, we're over an hour, but we'll see how it goes. To rotate. What am I doing? So, but then this needs to change. So this needs to take more props. And then here was where we can maybe clean things up, turn this into an object and pass an object through instead of passing a bunch of parameters. We're going to go props dot, and for the sake of me not fucking shit up and not understanding what's going on, I'm going to do from rotate. And this is just replicate what we did before. So we have a dynamically generated keyframes styles. And we're passing all these functions to generate wheels. Now this is too long, and this is really weird and annoying, and this would drive me up the walls. Like I would never have a bit of code this long. But needs must. It's Hello Drunk World. It's not production ready code. And then again, we're just gonna, we're gonna duplicate what we had here. So this is gonna be from rotate to rotate, and then we're gonna change the rotation values. So rotation starts at 0, and it goes minus and plus. So I'm thinking we could go -5 +5. And that will give us a little slight rotation either way. So this is now going to become -5 +5, and the min is -5. Or actually, we'll go for 5. And this is going to be -5 +5 and 5. That's going to give us, like, it's either going to be rotated a little bit that way, a little bit that way. I love watching unneeded prompts highlight when you call them resistance. Yeah, and like what I would do if I was doing this properly, I would probably create like a utility function to be able to generate all these props and, like, you know, call them, like, you know, whatever the transformation type was, the min, the max, and then it would pull out what the random value would be for me. So because we're not, like, this is a lot of replicated code. This is like an anti-pattern, I assume. So let's see, does this do anything for us? It did. Fuck all. Fuck, I know why. This is why I don't do CSS. So rotate takes a number. This is what driving the walls, like rotate. Let's see. CSS rotate. Let's see the rotate function. So it takes, so it has degrees. I'm just going to copy because I'm going to probably need. But can it take anything else other than degrees? Like, is it always degrees? Because if it's always degrees, then why do I need to provide the degrees? I can understand a font file. Where a font could be, you know, pixels, points, rem, whatever. But degrees, from what I understand, it doesn't take anything else other than degrees. So why do you have to specify the degree value in the actual font? Which is, it's strange. So now I have to add this string in, or it'll not do the actual rotation for me. So run this again. Oh, we're getting a little. So we're kind of getting there. Do we want to go a bit more? Fuck it. We're gonna go 10 either side. Going off script. Yeah, so Bill was saying, it's Bill or Billy? I never know. I'm gonna call you Bill anyway. Yeah, because you're doing a rotation, you're doing a degree rotation, which is 360 degrees. So rotate is always degrees. You shouldn't need the degree factor. The reason why I'm keeping them so small is because if you're thinking of like a letter, you only want to go a little bit each way. Kind of like, you know, I'm thinking like, you know, the typewriter would be like, you know, missing the mark a little bit. And that's kind of giving us a little like offset feel. Yeah, so they're all kind of a little bit offset, a little bit bigger. Like, you know, we've got a broken typewriter that has multiple different key sizes, which never really exist. Maybe we could use this to write ransom notes. We'll see how it goes. So let's try something a little bit bigger. So, hello. Like the W, I always take the W. Drunk world. We're looking well. Drag out a bit. Yeah, so we've got like a typewriter-like experience that can like render and generate our components. Now we could modify this to be a component that takes a string. And on initial render, it renders it out. And if that string changes, it'll change and re-render that string each time instead of having to do this go button. But I thought the go button was an easy way to control and manage it. But yeah, I think we got there and we did something. Surprisingly well, actually. I'm shocked. So, for anyone on the stream, whatever, you can still see my screen. Any questions about what was going on, what we were doing, like fire away. I do this at the end, and well, I'm trying to do this at the end of every stream. Like stream, I'll chill, have a little chat with the whoever's on. Gives me a time to have like a post stream smoke, relax and chill, kind of talk through what we were actually thinking, what we were doing. So any questions, stuff like that, like fire away. There's a bit of delay, but that's why I'll hang about and have the smoke. I'll bump the music a little bit. Thanks, Bill. Is it Bill? I keep fucking... I talk to you all the time. What the fuck is going on? Yeah, it's Bill. I got caught out. I called the guy the wrong name. He didn't notice, but I noticed, and then I killed myself over it. Yeah, so like it's been cool, Bill, seeing like your experience going through the whole the 100 day of code, and like you've been turning out some really awesome like CSS stuff. Like how have you, like, I don't know where you are at the minute and what like frameworks. I know you're doing a bit of web component stuff like that, like, but like whenever it comes to like choosing a CSS framework, what is like your go-to? Like what do you know? If you were going to start like a greenfield project, what would you use for like your styling stack and how you would style stuff? I have a few of my own kind of different opinions and stuff, but it all depends really on who you are as a developer. It's a lib element. So like a polymer stack. I always thought this shit, not this shit, like I mean this stuff, it like died out, where like I'm looking at the polymer project docs for lit element. CSS is for scratch. You made a CSS library? Fire that link into the chat. I want to see that library. I hope you open sourced it. So it's funny, whenever I like, this is the annoying thing, like the comments are so out of sync whenever the video, but when I started writing like professional JavaScript, we used Sass for everything, and I thought Sass was like, this is in next level stuff. Like you can write functions, you can do loops, you can like create like mixins and that kind of stuff. And the more I use it, the more like we kind of got the focus of the separation of concerns was having a JS file, a Sass file, and a HTML file, which was like a HTML template because we were using Marionette and Backbone. But we then kind of realized it wasn't separation of concerns, it was separation of technologies. Because you were just separating those things into different files, even though if I wanted to give you a component, I had to give you those 3 files to be able to use that component. So then React tried to bridge the gap by doing, JSX, which is HTML. People shit on JSX, but it's HTML. Yes, it has its issues, but HTML and JavaScript in the one file, which meant like I could ship you that. You still had to get the styles from somewhere, and that's where like there's still like the Sass file hanging around somewhere that like you just had to use. But then with style components, I could write everything. Now, okay, there is a barrier to entry because you need to then consume style components. You need to have it as a dependency, as a peer dependency. But it got the point where like, I could write the styles, the markup, and the logic all in one file. Like I know Vue is doing that right now, in their own special way. But I want to see how well I could port a Vue component into React. I was able to port Marionette and Backbone components into React and vice versa really easily by like, you know, tearing down that separations of technologies and making it more separations of concerns and building them all into one file. And I wonder how you could build the bridge and build the gap across those kind of things. You hate CSS and JS. You haven't been doing style components. No, what? Right. Okay. No autocomplete. So let's flick back to this. So let's look at this. So this is obviously on the template, but right. You know, based on your IDE, I think style components maybe is the only one. I'm not sure if Emotion and other CSS and JS frameworks have this. You know, WebStorm can't color properly, but if I go margin, I'm getting all the top, and especially if I go margin top 10 pixels, and then I go margin left 10 pixels. Right, will it do this if I go margin right 10 pixels and then margin bottom? Come on, don't do me wrong. Yeah, so they've even built in the, like, you know, the optimizations. So I get the squiggly line saying like, here, something's wrong here. I do Alt Enter, replace with the shorthand, and it reduces that down to me. Now, if they were all different sizes, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, that'll auto clean it down for me. Now that was a plugin that had to be built for WebStorm to handle style components specifically, because the style components used the, you know, template and string format of doing things. It's not the same for every IDE, but they are kind of catching up. At the start, there was no auto-completion, there was no styles, there was no nothing that could handle things for people, and it drove me up the walls because you would just get like errors everywhere. Like, it used to be a case if you missed a semicolon, the styles would break and you never knew why. It was because we were missing a semicolon to tell this is the end of the style line. And then, yeah, and as you said, like, you could use Prettier then to, you know, optimize, and because all of this goes through style components, it goes through a like a styled preprocessor. I don't know what they call it. It's something like Styleland or something like that. So if I do, now this is all going to be different because I fucked up the styles. But if I inspect this, yeah, it auto prefixes. Yeah, it goes through auto prefixer, so it auto prefixes all the styles that'll handle all the different browser types for me. So I put in like the standard, which is probably usually Chrome, and then it'll do the Mozilla prefix and anything for IE and all that kind of stuff for me. So I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Same way if you're doing SAS will add it for you. If you're doing raw CSS, you're going to have to do that yourself, unless you use something like Post CSS or something like that to handle for you. You need to get back on React. It's too good. Convince the company. React, create React app. Fuck it, you're in for a winner. Yeah, but gonna kill the stream there. Open WC night. What is an open WC night? I'm not sure what that is. What is open WC? Open WC. Open web components. That's okay. That's I'm adding that to the list of the stream. Could be the next one. Web components. This thing gives me web components. It was, I remember years ago, like this is talking like 5 years ago. I was doing Angular 1, a web components became a thing, and it was this idea like you could like write a HTML block with a little bit of JavaScript, and it would be a shareable component you could drop into any file, any app, and it wouldn't need a framework, it wouldn't need anything to run, like the browsers automatically supported. And it's always kind of been in the back burner. Like you have, like tools like Element and Polymer or something like that. You have these tools that are using them, but they just, I don't know why they never get any recognition or acknowledgement. Like no one, they're never talked about. Like yeah, I'm a React dev, and like I'm fucking drinking the Kool-Aid, and I'm loving React, but I never hear of anything else. It's always the fight between Angular, React, and Vue, and someone tries to bring a new framework, and it just gets squashed and thrown away. But saying stuff like this, like I want something that's, I could write a component that I could drop into a static HTML file without any configuration, without any frameworks, with anything else, and I could have a static site that has potentially, say, a subscribe button that I didn't have to write a Gatsby site just to get that subscribe button in there, because I needed like React and a component lifecycle and Ajax built in there. It's just something that like I could drop in this. Like if you were a contractor, you could be building these small reusable components like a checkout button or a shop button or something like that, and just dropping them into static sites, and no one ever thinks about them. But as my cigarette finishes, I bid you adieu. Thanks everyone for joining. It was a really fun stream. It's good to get back. I'm going to be doing this fortnightly, I think, going forward. I can't maintain weekly because drinking a bottle of wine once a week, along with the rest of the shit I drink, isn't sustainable. But thanks everyone for joining. Big thanks to Bill for joining along, helping me out, giving me some new things to look into, and a lot of research I'm going to be doing after this.